Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today in our exploration of alternative modalities for children with special needs. Today we're going to explore Psycho-Bio Acupressure, better known as PBA, with Manon Billette. Manon has over 27 years experience as a pediatric speech therapist and has acquired multiple certifications in other alternative modalities, but today we're going to specifically talk about PBA. Manon, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure, Christine. I'm really happy to be here to actually talk about PBA, which is really one of my passion.
Let's get right into it then. What is PBA?
PBA stands for Psycho-Bio Acupressure. It's a method that was developed in France by a doctor called Pierre-Noel Delatte. It's a method that works on emotions in two different ways. The first way is by balancing the emotions with acupressure points. This is actually accessible to everyone. And the second way is by releasing emotional blockages. This can only be done with the help of a PBA practitioner. So I will talk to you first about acupressure points. Acupressure points are actually a great way to balance a person's energy levels. So what we do is we go and we press on 5 different points on the body, almost simultaneously. There's 22 circuits. These points will create a circuit. And there's actually 22 circuits, and each of them will address a specific issue or a specific emotion. I will describe some of them later. Points can be applied as often as needed. So when applying the points, in almost no time, the person will feel a difference in their energy. They will feel more relaxed and more peaceful. This is because every time we do these points, we stimulate the brain to release some endorphins. Sorry for my English, these words are harder for me. It's that hormone of well-being. It's the feeling we get sometimes after having a massage, a very relaxing massage, or overexerting ourselves doing exercises. It's the same feeling, but we can get it in less time. These points are easy to apply. Parents can use them on their children and also on themselves. You can find all the information about these points, acupressure points, in the books that you've presented. So this is the first thing. These points can be used on their own, these acupressure points, but we also use them at the beginning of a PBA session. This will always be the first part of the PBA session. And the second part will be about releasing emotional blockages. What's an emotional blockage? That's very simple. It's nothing more than a memory that we have associated to a strong emotion at some point in our life. Most of these memories are created in our childhood. This is when we couldn't put things in perspective. The problem today with these blockages is that they may be holding us back, making us feel stuck. The good news is that with the help of a PBA practitioner, we can actually go and identify these blockages. I forgot to say it because some of them are actually unconscious, so sometimes we don't know what they are. So by going and identifying these blockages, we can help the person to release them. This way, the person can be herself again, and it will help that person also to reach their full potential.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that great description. It's interesting that there are these acupressure points that parents can use individually with their children, and then there's this additional service with PBA where you can go and have a one-on-one session and really release all of those blockages, because the blockages are real. Just as an example, with my own daughter, who had a regression at the age of 2.5, in many ways that caused an emotional blockage for her in terms of wanting to progress again, because she feared losing those capabilities again. And I thought, your modality PBA was so helpful in allowing her to release that so that she would begin to progress again. So just a little addition there, but perhaps elaborate more on how this method can help children with special needs, because there are all kinds of challenges and all kinds of blockages out there.
Yes, this is why it's a pretty wide question, but I'll try to answer it. We won't be able to address everything, but give you a little idea of how it can help. Well, one way, like you said, is by applying acupressure circuits. And this can be done by parents, like we said. And there's 22 circuits. You will go and choose basically the ones that are appropriate or that are needed. They could be different, depending on the issue or what's going on, situation at a certain time. I'll give you a few examples of these circuits. One of them can help with stress. We also have another one that helps to release anxiety. There's also another one that can help to release pressure, because we know that some of these children tend to put pressure on themselves too. Another one can release excess anger, and I would say that it can also boost anger in some situations. This would be a situation where we have a child that can never defend himself. He may need to boost his anger. Another circuit's for hypersensitivity. We have one also to boost focus and concentration. And one of my favorite one is the one that comes and boosts creativity. So myself, actually, as a speech therapist, I even use these circuits. I apply a few circuits when kids come for a session, and it makes a big difference. It helps them to be more receptive and relax during the session after. So this is a great way to help these children with these acupressure points, and it's accessible to everyone, so that's what's good. Another way that we can help them is by seeing them for a PBA session, like you were saying. This will help to release their blockages. Blockages related to their specific issues, actually. So your daughter can be very, very different from another child. We will go and address their specific issues. Releasing the blockages can help with a lot of issues. A very, very common one is anxiety and insecurity. I know we talked about that with the acupressure points, that there are circuits that can help to release anxiety and stress. But at this level, we would go a little deeper, which means that instead of just coming and balance the emotion, we will actually work on what are the blockages behind this insecurity. Because you can keep on doing the circuits and keep on doing the circuits, but at some point, if you don't address what's behind that, you will keep on having to do the circuits. Other issues that it could help, I'm just going to name a few like this: sleeping issues, hyperactivity, difficulty to adapt to changes and go through transitions. The releasing of blockages can also help to develop self-confidence, self-expression, autonomy. Make them also more efficient in their communication. We know a lot of these children have issues with their communication. It can also improve focus, concentration, their capacity to learn. Basically, Christine, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We can address so many more issues than this. Some children with special needs also have sometimes not as good of a self-image of themselves. And this is something that we will be very, very careful with when we do a PBA session. the practitioner will watch the way he brings up the blockages, because blockages, it may sound negative sometimes. If I tell you that you're stubborn, it doesn't sound really good. So we will always try to find the positive impact of a blockage. Let's say a child has a difficulty letting go and he's stubborn. Well, we may tell the parent that the child has a great strength, which is that he has determination. So hearing this positive impact makes the child feel good about himself. And it will also help the parent to see the child differently, see the positive of the blockage. Okay, sometimes the child may have a little too much determination, but the parent will understand more the behavior, his child's behavior. It is important to keep in mind that children are not defined by their blockages. Actually, their blockages are preventing them from being themselves. So once the blockages are released, this will open up new possibilities for them.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's quite interesting for parents actually to observe the session, because I do feel we get so much information, so much deeper information about what our child is going through, that we may have an intuition that is something our child is going through, but we don't know for sure. So I have, as a parent, have felt it's been so beneficial to have these sessions and to really get to understand what my daughter's challenges are and how I can better support her. I feel it's really beneficial both in releasing the blockages for the child, but also in helping to inform the parent. So I felt that it's been really great for that.
Yeah, definitely, because sometimes parents may have a perception of things, and with the PBA session, you will help them to have a completely different perspective of the child. So it can be very, very helpful, definitely.
Absolutely. Actually, one thing I did want to mention is, because people probably don't have a good sense of how the session works. So we think it's important to mention that the child doesn't have to actually be verbal, right? The child doesn't have to speak. So maybe you could tell us a little bit what the session looks like and how you access those blockages.
Ooh, okay. This can be a big topic, so I'll try to make it very, very short. We go through pulse monitoring, so we take the pulse of the person. We go through a list of blockages, and when there's a little change in the pulse, like the pulse will actually tells us where there's a stress, and this is how we will know where the blockages are. Basically, we're connecting ourselves to a part of the brain that's not conscious, right? And we can feel this through the pulse. And this is how we will go and identify blockages. And this is a great approach because it can even be used with babies, actually.
That's fantastic. And I imagine, like we have used this modality as a whole family, this is something that can really help everyone, right? The parents, it can help the siblings, as well as the child with special needs.
Definitely. We can talk a little bit more about that. I will start just by saying a quote that was said by a famous psychiatrist named Dr. Bowen. He says the family is an emotional unit. So right away, just saying the family is an emotional unit, you can see that PBA can be efficient for the whole family. Emotions are the heart of the family. It means that PBA can really support that. Everyone has blockages, as you said, not only the child with special needs. And everyone's blockages influences others. They're contagious. The family who has a child with special need has challenges, struggles, and stress. I mean, all families have. They may have a little bit more, and it all depends. Some family may tell you that it's good for them, right? Challenges and struggles are part of life. Life is not like this. It's not straight. It goes like this. It constantly goes like this. There's ups and there's downs. After releasing emotional blockages, what is it going to do? It's not going to change the course of life. You will still have stress. You will still have challenges. But the difference will be that you're not going to focus as much on that stress and challenge and these challenges and feel stuck. That's what happens sometimes. We tend to focus too much on the stress. By releasing the blockages, it will actually help the family to cope more easily with downs. And the stresses and the struggles can become opportunity for the family to grow. And that's very important.
Yeah, that's a wonderful point. I just as a personal experience with us, it's been so wonderful for myself. Even I've felt through our sessions together that I've benefited immensely individually, not only as a parent but just as a human being. I also feel with my typical developing daughter that it was so beneficial and has helped her improve in her sporting activities by removing some of that pressure she was putting on herself and so forth, as you mentioned in the interview. So I just wanted to mention that just because our whole family has really benefited from these sessions.
Yes, I see the difference too, because I used to get PBAs done by a practitioner that's not here very often. So every time she would be here, we would all go. And I can tell you, every time everybody would go for a PBA session, I mean, everybody, there was a change in the dynamic in the house. So it was really, really interesting. So, but really, yes, and focus on this opportunity for the family to grow, because this is when we're stuck in our stresses, this is what we don't see. We don't see these opportunities. And these stressful situations, they help the family to open their hearts, to develop understanding, and it brings them closer. And this will bring stability to the family. And I will go on now to say that in PBA, we have lists of blockages that are related to the family. We can work on relationship with, of the child, with the mother, with the father, even the grandparents, if they're very involved. We can work on the relationship to other siblings. We can even address couples relationship, because all this will affect the child. And finally, we can also work on the relationship of a parent with his child. And I have to say, Christine, that this last list that I just mentioned, the relationship of the parent with his child, has a good number of blockages in it. And almost 50% of these blockages in the list are related to guilt. So guilt is a very, very common blockage for all parents, not only parents, not just parents with children with special needs. Before a session, I will always give instructions on how the session will go and everything. And I will mention to the parent at that point that he's not responsible for his child's blockages. And this sentence, every time I say it, I look at the parent, either his shoulders go down, and I even have parents sometimes that start crying. So it is a big thing for them. And guilt is actually a great message. It means that we have good intentions and a good conscience as a parent. And the problem is not really the guilt. The problem is the excessive guilt that we may have sometimes. And it's that guilt that sometimes will trigger emotions. And this is what will paralyze the parent. And this is what sometimes will affect their relationship with children. This is just an example of what could be released in a session with a parent.
That's really fantastic, Manon. Thank you so much for that additional information, because I think it's important, for parents to hear that, especially around guilt, because that is very true. It is very common.
And I will go on to the siblings, because I know this is a subject that interests you. I'll make it brief. Like you said, siblings can also develop blockages in relation with the situation with having a sibling, with special needs. There's a list to work on relationship with siblings. An example of blockages that may be there. Some siblings may perceive injustice. They may even sometimes feel angry, It also, you will have others that may become excessively responsible for their brother or sister. And sometimes this looks like a very positive thing, but growing up, this blockage sometimes will make children grow up too fast. And finally, there'll be other siblings that won't even develop any blockages over this situation. And if a parent is concerned about the sibling, a PBA session could be very helpful, just to even find out if the sibling has developed any blockages, because we're never sure, by what we see. So it's always interesting to go see, because some children may be quiet, but inside, they're thinking a lot. And then you have other ones that are, showing a lot of behaviors, but that may just be normal behaviors.
I absolutely agree, actually, because, in our own situation with Juliana, one of the things that she perceived, one of her blockages, was that she felt that things were unfair and that I was spending too much time with Gabby, and she felt that I wasn't present enough. But the reality was that I could have spent, days on end with her, and she would have still felt that way, because this was an internal blockage. It was something that was present no matter what. And so without releasing it, that perception would remain. So I felt actually that after our session, that perception shifted a little bit, where she wasn't feeling so emotional and wasn't kind of reacting so much. So it absolutely.
Definitely. And I mean, also your perception as a parent influences the child's behavior. If you feel like you're not giving the child enough time, chances are that you will think that he's thinking that you're not giving him too much time. So that's why sometimes when the parents are very concerned about a sibling, you're better off doing a PBA session on them first, because it could be their blockages also.
This is true.
Yeah.
Well, Manon, do you have anything else that you feel would be really important to mention to our following about PBA? I think that what you have to remember about this interview, that's the most important, is how PBA can bring a change on the way we see things, on the way we see our child, on the way we see our family, on the way that we see situations that happen to us. I think that's the biggest thing. And this is what is released with these blockages. And it doesn't mean that you're never going to feel emotions again. We're not robots. We're all going to feel emotions in our life. We're human beings. They're actually important. It will just help you to not be triggered by them and have these excess emotions that are stopping you from thriving. I mean, that's what I would say. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. I think all this information was so valuable, and I truly believe in this method. And I think it'll be really helpful for families to know about it, because I know it's not very well known yet.
Yes, that could be another message. I mean, if some people are interested in, of becoming a PBA practitioner, there's a whole courses to go through this. You can find all the information about that on the Psycho-Bio Acupressure site that you will be posting, I guess, under this video, right?
Yes, I will. And actually, speaking of which, you mentioned a good point, because we did talk about parents being trained to apply the acupressure points. And I feel that I mentioned in this talk with you that parents can get, I think it's a 3-day training or something like that, where they can talk about the circuits.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, well, there's actually two possible courses that the parents can take. So you have parents that just with the book, they manage, and if they really if they have questions about points or how to do them, they can actually take the course. There's a 1-day course where we will go over I think it's about 8 circuits, the most important ones. So that course is very accessible to everyone. It's like a one day course. If people want to go they want to know a little bit more, we have also a class of 2 days, which will go over all of the circuits, actually, the 22 circuits. You have to have done the 1 day prior to doing that one. So that's what makes it 3 days, actually.
Okay, that's fantastic. I will absolutely write that information down under this video so that parents can access it should they be interested in taking this kind of training. And I will add your contact information in case anybody has any questions for you. Perhaps they want to book a session, or maybe they want to chat more about PBA, or maybe find a practitioner in their area, because I know a lot of people may not be in Montreal where you're located. So
yes, yes. We're not many yet. Hopefully there will be more. We're starting a little bit in Ottawa, right? I go there about every 2 months.
Yes.
So yeah, hopefully we can develop this and have more practitioner in Ottawa. That would be interesting.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Manon. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Christine. It was a pleasure.